Welcome to the Author Friendly Podcast. This is your host, Carla King, talking with the people behind the products, tools, and services you use on your self-publishing journey. This podcast was inspired by my consumer's guide for self-publishers, which you can find at authorfriendly.com. Also on authorfriendly.com are the show notes, so you can follow along with this week's guest in our next half an hour. Thanks for listening.
And from our perspective at IBPA, it's always the publisher that's responsible for the quality of the content and the production value. So if it's you as the author publisher, then you are responsible for that. And if you work with a hybrid publisher or a publisher with a traditional model, it's the publisher who's responsible for making sure that it meets the standards, et cetera, of the industry.
Angela Bole is CEO of the Independent Book Publishers Association, a membership organization for self-publishers and independent publishers to provide resources, education, advocacy, connections, and tools for success. Angela and I discussed the role and responsibilities of the publisher, as you just heard in the clip at the beginning of this episode. No matter whether it's you as an author who is self-publishing or if you're publishing via a hybrid publisher or even a traditional press. In fact, we spend a lot of time talking about the hybrid publishing options that have sprung up in the past years. The IBPA has clarified these roles for us, and you'll learn about author-subsidized hybrid publishing, what a hybrid publisher does for you, how much you might be expected to invest, how much the publisher invests, and exactly what they do for you. You'll also learn how much royalty you should negotiate for. In fact, the IBPA offers a 9-point hybrid publishing criteria you can download for free from their site. So you can make sure that a hybrid press is what they say they are and not really just one of those vanity mills we want to avoid at all costs. Other resources we discuss include the IBPA Industry Standards Checklist. So if you're doing it all yourself, you can make sure that your self-published books look just like those published by Harper Collins or Simon Schuster. We talk about cooperative marketing opportunities for IBPA members, which includes physical catalog mailings to bookstores and libraries. In fact, they mail out to 3,500 independent bookstores, including the bookstores classified as top buyers. There is so much to IBPA, we don't even get to cover it all in this episode, but you'll get an idea of why it's the professional organization I recommend most to self-publishers and small presses. I know you'll get a lot out of this conversation with Angela Bole. Enjoy. Hi, Angela. Welcome to the Author Friendly Podcast.
Hi, Carla. Thanks. It's good to be here.
You are the CEO of the IBPA. Can you tell us about the organization and what it means to authors who are self-publishing?
Sure. Yeah. IBPA, it stands for the Independent Book Publishers Association. We are a professional trade association for independent publishers and author publishers, which is what we would call a self-published author. We've been around for about 30 years. We exist to advocate for independent presses and self-published authors, author publishers. Also, we provide education for people so that they can understand the business of publishing better and compete better on more of a level playing field. And we offer what we call tools for success, which is essentially cooperative marketing opportunities to help people showcase their books in the industry as well.
For the listeners who want to follow along, I'm going to give you the URL for the IBPA website. It's www.ibpa-online.org. And Angela, you have a lot of resources for self-publishing authors or author publishers, as you call them, that you don't need to be a member to take advantage of. And one of those is the Industry Standards Checklist that you published last year. Tell us about that. I really love sharing that, by the way.
Awesome. Yeah. And you're right. Our website is meant to be an almost free resource. You'll find a couple things are going to be behind the firewall for members. But for the most part, it's part of our mission to put information out there that's helpful to people, to author publishers particularly. And yeah, this industry standards checklist for professionally published book, a long title for this document that's 2 pages front and back. It was born out of our advocacy committee. We realize that in a lot of ways, there's little tricks and triggers to publishing a book, to the production of a book that if you're just getting started in the industry, you might not be aware of. So for example, as a professional book buyer at a bookstore or a librarian, you're looking for these triggers when you pick up a book, and you're looking for example, the spine. You're trying to see if it has the author's name, the title of the book, and the publisher insignia. These three things show that this is a professionally produced spine. On the back, you're looking for the proper barcode with the price encoded, with the ISBN assigned. You're looking for the subject heading. There's just these things that when they're missing from a book, it's these technical details, you can tell right away that the book is not professionally produced. So we wanted to be able to help people with just a quick checklist. You could literally go down the list and see whether you have all of these things done correctly, even going into what your copyright page says, how to do your headers and things along those lines. Yeah, just to help people understand what people are going to look for if you're trying to get into bookstores or libraries.
Right. And on this page, which is under the resources tab of your website, this downloadable examples are awesome. I shared these so much. You have sample interior spreads and covers.
Yeah, we picked those. Our advocacy committee members kind of volunteered some of the work that they were most proud of to illustrate what it should look like. And I do think that's really helpful because we really think that there should be no reason that an author publisher can't create books that could sit on the shelf with a Penguin Random House book and be just as good in terms of the quality of content and production value. It's absolutely possible.
It is. And you have all these little seals that we can grab and put on our website that says, double the reading field and professionalism matters. And I support publishing standards. So that people on your website can see, book buyers especially will probably be impressed by these stickers.
Yeah. I mean, it just shows that you're willing to play the game, right? Like you want to be part of the publishing industry and you want to be professional in what you're doing. I mean, it is a long-standing traditions in our industry, and it is a profession that it's something to learn and to kind of love.
Yeah, there are reasons quality matters.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we've heard this term hybrid author and hybrid publisher being bandied about for the past few years. Can you go through what's a hybrid author and what's a hybrid publisher? And you also have a resource on your website for that.
Yeah, I agree. They've been bandied about for a while. I think hybrid author is a little easier to understand because it's been around a little longer. A hybrid author is an author who both self-publishes and is published by a traditional publishing house. So, making a choice based on the content that you want to publish, whether you think that content should be published, you should publish it yourself or you need a publishing house to do it for you. And again, I mean, I think there's many reasons why you would choose both of those avenues. And it's interesting to me now that can be a choice for people, a legitimate choice, not just to fall back into, author publishing. That's a choice you can make.
That's true. Just let me interrupt here.
Yeah, for sure.
I think at the San Francisco Writers Conference a few years ago, Bella Andre was speaking, and she had just made a deal. She's a very hot romance writer.
Yeah.
She had made a deal with Harlequin to carry her print books, but she kept the digital rights, which was amazing and groundbreaking at the time. Are you seeing that more and more often?
Well, I'm seeing the request. I know people are making that request. It's not always easy to do. I mean, Bella Andre is this amazing case study, right? She can almost write her own page. She's so good. But that is a request authors are making of publishers. They want to keep their digital rights because they know they can make more money if they own those rights.
And I'm working with an author too that is publishing traditionally, but she's writing a prequel that she's self-publishing to advertise the traditional books. I think that's very cool. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that you can kind of flow in and out of these business models, right? As an author. And I love that idea. I love putting out, chunks of content that kind of lead into it. And even if, the main text is coming out traditionally published, you can do all kinds of fun stuff around the edges of it. It's pretty interesting. So I do see that authors are asking for that. But I will say if your publisher doesn't want to give you your digital rights, if they want to wrap that up, and the deals will oftentimes be contingent on having both digital and physical rights. But you should ask, why not? See what happens. See what your negotiating power is and see what you can get done. Yeah, so hybrid author. And then you asked a hybrid publisher too.
Three things, I think. It's the hybrid author, hybrid services, and hybrid publisher. So let's start with the hybrid publisher.
Yeah. Hybrid publisher, well, we did just put out, I think we call it the hybrid publisher criteria. And this is 9 points that define what makes a publisher a hybrid publisher. Essentially, it's the author subsidized in terms of the financial model. So the author does pay for the publishing, but the publisher in this case has a defined mission for the press. They vet content, so it's not just a mill where there are service providers that will just take your content regardless of whether they think it's good or ready. Hybrid publishers wouldn't do that. They would take content just and vet it and make sure it fits their mission, and also they think that it's published
Because
ready.
their name is on it? I mean, is it published by these companies and not by my own little imprint that I make up?
That's another point in the criteria is that, yes, the books come out under the publisher's imprint or under the publisher's name with the publisher's ISBNs. And, kind of like the buck stops there. The quality of the production and the content rests on the publisher and really always does. One thing that one thing I really love about the hybrid publisher criteria is that it does help define who the publisher is in a given relationship. And from our perspective at IBPA, it's always the publisher that's responsible for the quality of the content and the production value. So if it's you as the author publisher, then you are responsible for that. And if you work with a hybrid publisher or a publisher with a traditional model, it's the publisher who's responsible for making sure that it meets the standards, et cetera, of the industry. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're trying with this criteria to acknowledge that it's the publisher is responsible for putting quality content out there.
Right. And I'm reading on this page that hybrid publishers offer authors a higher than standard royalty. What kind of royalties are you seeing?
And that's important because, as I said at the top, it's author subsidized. So the author is going to be paying for the production of the book. Some, if not all, of the costs associated, that's all negotiable. So if you're going to pay for it, you should certainly reap the benefits at the back end. And in this case, you can imagine a traditional royalty structure is anywhere between 8 to 12%. For the most part, you might get up to 15% of net, to the author. That's very traditional. In a hybrid relationship, I think the minimum you shoot for is 50%. And personally, I think that's low. So I think you should also get in there with your negotiating hat on. I think 70, 75%, that seems about right. The publisher needs to take some to cover some of the overhead costs, the personnel and the time. You got to pay for people's time. Everyone should get a paycheck for doing what they do professionally. So there is some of the royalty would go to the publisher, or not all anyway, to the author. But yeah, it's definitely much larger and great if you are selling a lot of books direct to consumer, because you're going to be keeping a good deal of the revenue from those sales.
Direct, like back of room sales or through your website.
If you're a speaker, and I've seen that for the most part, people enjoy this model when they're, they have a strong speaking platform and they're able to sell books to people, and, they might speak to a group of 100, sell 40 books, and they keep the majority of the proceeds from that.
Yeah. What other resources do you have that might attract author publishers or self-publishers? I know you have a fair number of small presses on independent publishing on the site. So what is for my self-publishing friends here?
Well, it's not all relevant, I guess, but it's mostly relevant. I mean, we certainly we segment our membership just so we can kind of know what we're talking about into an author publisher, traditional publisher, hybrid publisher. But honestly, you're a publisher, you have to get your ISBNs, you have to get your barcodes, you have to have your content edited, designed. You need cover art. We have all of that kind of wrapped up in our member benefits handbook, which is like 70 pages. It's a beast of a handbook, and you can find resources that will help you through the process, through the full publishing workflow. And again, I mean, that's helpful to small presses. It's helpful to author publishers as well. Like everyone needs these resources. But I think beyond that, beyond just benefits, there's the education. And a lot of times we find, people publish their own work and they come through the process and they go through IBPA's educational resources. Like we have an annual conference, we have online webinars, we have Also just the office staff, which is here to answer any questions you have whenever you call in, and learn the business of publishing. And it's not everybody's goal to start a publishing empire, but it could be. And we're here to kind of support that. We really want to raise up the next generation of indie presses if we can. And often that stems from people who publish their own work, learned how to do it, and brought on authors of their own.
True. So many authors I know didn't expect to be publishing other authors, but they ended up kind of being like a clearinghouse for other authors in their genre, or banding together in that old style.
Sure. That's great.
What was it in the Beat generation? They had their co-ops, right?
Yeah. We have some of that. I mean, that word kind of lingers around IBPA too. We do a lot of co-ops, cooperative advertising, cooperative display.
Talk about that, because your members can reach bookstores and libraries through your mailings. They're pretty reasonable when you think about. I think it's about $400 to reach bookstores and libraries with an ad or a mailing.
Yeah, this is an example of cooperative advertising, cooperative marketing, like you were mentioning with the Beat generation. It still stands. Our bookstore catalog is a physical catalog. We mail that to about 3,500 indie bookstores. We get those indie bookstore lists from the American Booksellers Association, from their indie-bound bookstores, and also through Ingram. Ingram kind of calls their list of buyers, the bookstores that buy from them, and gives us the top buyers, the ones that are spending the most money, and we send the catalog to them.
Nice.
And it's just it's pretty good. And our director of marketing has decided this year that he actually is going to put an impressive publisher on the cover. So the covers have been really great this year. They make you want to open the book. We had Patagonia, for example, was on the cover this quarter. We had Kwame Alexander on the cover last quarter, who's just won great awards for his poetry. So yeah, it's good. And it's again about trying to level the playing field and help our author publishers band together. If you have one book, and you can't really send a catalog to a bookstore, but you can come together in a single catalog with lots of books, and it's a little more powerful that way.
And you have trade show displays for author publishers as well?
We do. We might, kind of pull back from that. We're finding that, particularly at Book Expo, but perhaps in other spaces, it's better to be there. And if you can't be there, sending a book isn't really doing much for you. So we actually didn't hold a cooperative book display this year at Book Expo, and we're deciding whether we want to change that decision for next year. But yeah, I mean, I would say there's great value in these trade shows, but great value for those that can participate personally.
I love your publishing university, by the way. It's got a weekend event. Where is it in 2019?
We are narrowing in on 2019. It is great. I mean, it is, the one time where we're able to really get all of our members together in one place, or most of it.
And online, you have a forum and places for people to chat and ask questions and network as well.
We do. Yep. And I would really love for more people to get in there. I appreciate how it is when, we all have our own outside forums and Facebook, and I don't know what people are using. I'm kind of still on Facebook, and my friends tell me I need to get on Instagram, and I don't know how to.
Oh, you and me both.
Yeah. I don't know how to handle this. I have to get all these different social media platforms up and running.
I think it's good to focus on just one at a time, really, because you spread yourself too thin and it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. That's where I'm at. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, we do. We put in forums about a year ago, online discussion forums, and they're broken down into topics, and they're open to members only, so you can get in there and ask your questions and respond and kind of see. I think one of the questions, we feature a question in our weekly newsletter, and the one that we featured this week was somebody talking about software for managing their business, essentially. Like, what software do you use to track your royalties and, just general finance software? And we don't have an answer here in the office right now for what people can use, but we can kind of crowdsource some ideas from the forum.
That's great. And because your membership is really at a higher level, a more professional level than anything you can just get on Facebook or even sometimes in LinkedIn, because people are paying what is the membership cost?
$129 a year.
$129. And if they're a supplier, like a designer or something,
It's more 189, I think.
89 a year. Just by vetting that level of professionalism, you get better answers.
It is. I mean,
right answer.
You can, not always. I mean, sometimes I say, well, look and see who's responding, because particularly if it's a staff member, I would be well trained. But yeah, I think that's true. And we've always said here, we're never going to capture the totality of author publishing at IBPA, because we're really going to be bringing in people who are interested in learning about the publishing industry and participating in it, as much as possible, as professionally as possible. So yeah, there's that annual membership fee. Kind of does keep it at a professional level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoy it. And you get this amazing print magazine in the actual mailbox at your home.
Yeah, we still do a print magazine. We do 6 issues per year, so every other month. And people do say that's their favorite benefit every year. So they will never get rid of that print magazine. I can't imagine we ever could. People love it. And I do too. I think it's a powerful way to share information and keep them. People tell me that they keep them as resources.
I do. I have a shelf full of them. They're like little mini encyclopedias of what you need to know. I'm always surprised because, I think I know everything. I keep in touch. Yeah. I do. I keep in touch, and I'm completely blown away by the ideas that I get in this IBPA independent magazine.
Yeah, well, it's always good. We're learning all the time too. You have to kind of stay agile and stay open. There's all kinds of things
it's a changing industry for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so where can we find you on the socials, on Facebook at IBPA?
Yes, like that. I know if you do a search for IBPA or Independent Book Publishers Association,
right.
We really, we do Facebook and Twitter. I mean, I absolutely agree with you, Carla. We focus in on a couple things. So for the association, we're on Facebook and we're on Twitter.
And just to, leave us with a special tip or actionable item that self-publishers can really use, what have you got for us?
There would be lots of things, but one of the things I know can help author publishers be successful is starting early, and planning your publication. Having a publication plan that isn't, I have a manuscript and now I'm published the manuscript. Start with, your galleys and your pre-marketing and writing up your tip sheets, and treat it like a professional publication and kind of work it through the process like a traditional publisher would. It's going to give you a lot more cachet in the industry and a lot more ability to play. I'll give you an example. Again, our marketing director is also publishing his own book, because he believes in the process and thinks it's the right thing to do. And it's got an LGBTQ theme, and because he's done with it, it's been edited, but his pub date is in November. He's now submitting it for reviews and submitting it to PW, and he's getting blurbs. He's not paying for it. He's written up in PW under the LGBTQ books to look out for, because he's part of the stream, right? He's part of the pre-pub stream that's happening. So I guess my tip would be, because the manuscript is done and perhaps even edited, doesn't mean that it just then goes straight into production and out into the universe. Like, have a plan for how you're going to pull that content out into the universe, and how you're going to know that on the publication date you have interested buyers like clamoring, ready to go. That's how it works.
Yeah, get them to put those 5-star reviews on Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a great tip. Thanks for talking with us, Angela.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you, Carla.
So that's it for now. I hope you'll listen in to the next episode of the Author Friendly Podcast, where you'll hear more voices from the people behind the tools, services, and products you depend on for your self-publishing journey. Find the show notes at authorfriendly.com, along with links to iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, and all the other places you can listen to the podcast. And can I ask you a favor? Ratings help float the podcast to the top so that other authors like you can find it. So if you'd navigate to your podcast subscription service and give it some stars, I'd really appreciate it. Also on authorfriendly.com, you'll find free resources like my Consumer's Guide for Self-Publishers, which was the inspiration for this podcast. Yes, this is my obsessively updated ebook with reviews of the products, tools, and services that you'll hear about in this podcast. They'll help you not only write your book, but design it, format it, print, distribute, and market your books, and also do business as an author. If you need more help in your self-publishing journey, I've created a complete series of online courses that will help you with all of those tasks. Just go to selfpubbootcampcourses.com or pop me a note via email at hello@selfpubbootcamp.com, or just go to the site, selfpubbootcamp.com, if you have any questions at all. Okay, signing off again. I hope you'll subscribe and tune in next week for the Author-Friendly Podcast, your consumer's guide in audio format to help guide your self-publishing journey. Thanks.